What's bad about CS is that JL is being the stand-in for Vitality this season.
Right, we're back for another episode of Snake and Banter. We have a return guest. Actually, I think this might even be her third time appearing on the show. It's obviously Tech Girl. Now, we like to just dive straight in and get into the spiciest topic. And believe it or not, this is how I know I picked the right guest this week. She has brought the spiciest topic. So we're going straight, as you can imagine, to the bad section. So what's bad about CS right now? What don't you like?
What's bad about CS is that JL is being the stand-in for Vitality this season. But hear me out, because it's a bit more nuanced than that. Like, the reason I think this is bad is I actually think this is bad for JL. I think for me, it's a terrible move. So I watched pieces of a podcast with Banks and Devilwalk where he's like, "Oh, I had 2 offers from other top 10 teams, but they weren't trophy contenders, so I didn't go with them." And I'm like, my guy, you've been a stand-in for like a year. Now you're going to be a stand-in till the end of the year. I think that your stocks are going to be so much lower at the end of this year. I don't care if you're standing in for Vitality. Like, that is who you are now. You're the player everyone goes to when they just need someone to fill a spot. If no one's signing you and you're not playing like regularly in a team, that's not good for you. So that's my bad point. I didn't like his reasoning. I was upset with him. JL, I'm not impressed. Like, this is not a good move for your career, in my opinion.
Okay. That is spicy.
Ooh. It's a good topic. I mean, it's extremely pertinent to the competitive landscape of this season. I like the angle already because I too agree. I don't think, I mean, the worst case scenario is that the worst case, and I would even say the more likely case, is that he doesn't quite fit into the Vitality system. He has to play some off positions that he doesn't normally have to fill. Sure, he can be versatile. We saw with Maus that he could be pretty solid in some spots that he's not always put in, or at least what he wasn't put in when he was on Navi. But if you do anything other than make it to a semifinals with Vitality, your campaign at a tournament is seen as a failure. And that is a lot of pressure, even for a guy that was a major MVP, especially for a guy that is not really actively competing on a regular basis. I would hope that for JL that we see something on the more positive side, because the best case scenario is something kind of like an ESA situation where he gets completely overrated because the team does very well. They maybe even win a tournament while he's on the team. He puts up a serviceable rating, like a 1.08 or whatever. And then he gets more credit than he maybe even deserves because the rest of Vitality just hold up their end of the bargain. And I think, I don't know. I mean, I think my predictions lie more on the side of they're going to lose something that is going to lead to them falling beneath what you expect for Vitality at the upcoming tournaments, especially the one without Apex. I don't know. I don't know how that team is even going to function without him bringing that intensity and making sure that they're always in line. It always feels like even when they're winning, Apex is such a hard ass that he is constantly calling people out. Like, it's literally winning games by solid margins that are almost hard to lose, and he still finds ways to get frustrated, which probably is why they're so dominant. I don't think JL is going to bring that. I don't think Mezzi is going to bring that. But I am curious about one aspect of this, which isn't directly related to the JL point, is I want to know if this is a little bit of them feeling out. I know that they're saying that it is obviously
because of the birth of the children or whatever. Yeah. Are you going to suggest it might be like a smoke screen for a slow start to the season or something?
No, not a slow start to the season, but them actually feeling out what are we missing, or what do we lose when we lose these players?
Because like A/B testing, right?
Yeah, to me,
right.
The most likely to retire player is Apex in the future because he's on the older end of this. He's even kind of hinted at it lightly before, but he's not.
So I don't think it's like this is maybe if what Mezzi one day wanted to be IGL, you test it out now, see what it'd be like before it's for reals, right?
Yeah, I want to see if Mezzi becomes the in-game leader for the stand-in period because he was the in-game leader, of course, for Fnatic Reminder, he made it to the playoffs of a major as an IGL before, so he's not shabby at the role. Sure. And you look at the roster he had when he did that, I think his best player was Roy. So that's already that's like a Hooksy level accomplishment already. Like So and then you look at Mezzi being gone, and Mezzi's kind of also been the guy that's been talked about because his form this year, I don't have him in my top 20. I don't think he's attained any EVP medals, whereas last year I think he had like 5 or something like that. So he's definitely taken a dip in performance too. So I like that period that Vitality get to try things out a little bit, but I agree with the overall sentiment that why isn't JL just playing on a team?
Sure. Look like you were going to jump in and say something there, Tekka. You look skeptical.
Oh, no, I do. Like, I was going to say, like, I mean, it's Vitality. So here's the thing, right? If they don't make the semifinals, we'll just go, oh, shame, it's because JL's standing in.
It's a good excuse.
If they get past the semifinals, no one's going to go, wow, JL was impressive. We're all just going to go, it's Vitality. They have like 4 of the best players in the world, even without their 5th. I get why you took it, because I honestly don't believe your whole story about how you got offered these 2 top 10 teams. I don't think there were offers, and this was an opportunity for you to keep playing. Is it a chance for them to test? Sure, but like I don't think JL is going to give them I feel terrible. Like I basically turned into Thorin now with the way I'm like hating on this guy, but I don't think JL
just hold informed skepticism. It's a real position.
I don't think JL is going to give them anything magical to work with or like test out or whatever. I think this was just, hey, like you're having kids, you need to go be there for the birth. Who's available that can sort of step in, that is a good time, won't cause too many problems and can get to these events. That dude that was doing it for Miles earlier this year. Like that's legitimately what I think it is.
The problem with this one is I've actually been waiting for this topic to come up on a proper show, not just like a core stream or some random thing, because there's so many angles to this. This is why I know that even more people love drama. They're so bad at actually like excavating it and like picking it apart, because everyone's just left this as like, it doesn't matter because like, they have to have a standard anyway. And I guess JL was good. It's like, that's like the most surface level take ever. Let's just run through it all. So first of all, this is where you know that on the one hand, JL is actually, first of all, he's not a super cerebral guy. I'll do the polite thing for now. But also more importantly, I actually don't think, this is unfortunately maybe a part of being cerebral, I don't think he knows how people perceive what he says. Now, that, on the one hand, I think accidentally that works in his favour. He comes off as sort of like a charming, let's say, airhead, but like, in an amiable way. I don't think anyone wishes ill towards him. So in a way, actually being a guy who just might say something bizarre almost works as part of his brand. He's got like sort of a quirky personality. The problem is, I don't think he realises it is crazy work when you have been sat on the bench doing fuck all. And by the way, it was kind of just meh when you joined Mouse. You didn't really like win anyone over on that one. Like spoiler, after Mouse won Blast Bounty, nobody's going, oh, 40 with Sideshield. No one cares about that, mate. They're on already. We're on to the next. We've got 17-year-old Zelex and PR. No one gives a fuck about that. So there's not really a lot of buzz of JL to join a top team or a top 10 team, as he suggests. So I can't believe, one, that he said that he's basically turned down those offers to go and take these Vitality ones. Because to me, you have not only done a lauNX-esque gamble, that's literally what lauNX just did that was stupid as fuck too, where he actually went out of his way to tell the world he had offers that he didn't take, and now he doesn't have a team. So my prediction is you will be the new lauNX in the future. You at the end of the season won't be joining Vitality as the 6th man and being a part of the real lineup. Like, I just don't believe that's true, unless there's some bit, because here's the reason why I don't think it works anyway. Bro, you've already got ROPS. Like, what role are you taking within the team? There's the other weirdest thing. If you think of the roles JL would take in a team, there just aren't any in the top teams. It's actually it's an unusually bad time to be the sort of semi-lurk that he would be in a squad. Because when I look at the top 10, I'm just not seeing it. So first of all, I think the gamble is bad. I understand from his perspective why it might be a good gamble, because I actually think he's thinking this. I don't think he's a role cell. I don't think he sees CS that way. So I think he's looking at Vitality and going, hey, especially the event where Apex is there and I just replace Mezzi. I'm better than Mezzi. Fuck it. Maybe we win the event and I look really good. And then I get in. Look, I hope he doesn't then think, and then I get into Vitality, because brother, that ain't happening. But let's say his dream is I look good on Vitality, I win a tournament, and that gets me next season a better offer. Then maybe then I get, the top 10 team with the championship potential. That's a complete pipe dream though, in my opinion. Like as pointed out earlier, I actually agree with Tech Girl here. If you lose, everyone's going to go, who gives a shit, the GL? He's not even like an active player at the moment. If you win, I actually think people will just go, holy fuck, think how good Apex and Vitality are. They're winning with just GL standing in. Like, I actually don't think you'll get any credit unless you have some like absurd clutch you win. That's remember, you won't get any credit. And also, I think you've done the LauNX one where you've violated the old fucking one in the bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Like, you've gone for the two in the bush and there's going to be none after this. Because I'm sorry, all the interviews, this is also why I think people are clouded on him. All the interviews and comments from him don't even sound like he's standing in. They make it like, I'm in Vitality now. And I've been playing. It's like, yeah, there's a stand-in. Because, brother, I said it like this on another show. You're only there because literal human beings have to come out of the partners of other players in the team, mate. That's it. Not because they love you, not because they think you'd be great in the team. None of those things. Literally, the other people have to be somewhere else. Otherwise, it'd be a bit fucking mad if you win all the tournaments. He's like, sorry, though, I've got to win this like BLAST Porto event. Listen, I agree with that. Even though in general, I'd be on some nutter shit. I think normal human beings should just go to the birth of their child over a fucking video game tournament. It's not the major, is it? Like, so, and these are the easiest ones to give up. You've already won loads of trophies this year. So for Vitality, everything makes sense, by the way. I even like these moves. Also a big name person. You can even allow fans to have some fantasy. They might win the event anyway. You know what? I'll even say this. At the event where Apex is there, maybe you even can win it. You still got fucking everyone except Mezzi. I think that's even doable that, like, what, JBOEN and fucking Rops can't carry hard enough to win the... Of course they could. Flames could have the MVP. There's a bunch of ways he could win. So that I don't hate that. But like I say, you're not becoming the sixth man. And even if you were, you're not becoming a six-man rotation where you play instead of like Rops and Mezzi. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. Unless as maybe to take Maui's one further, maybe they already do know that one of those two players will retire at the end of the year. If that's true, even then, I'm sorry, I don't believe you're joining GL. I think they go and just get they're picking the litter. They get anyone they want, mate. They just take the best player and that next. The joke is they'd be going and getting some uber world class, currently amazing player who then joins their team. It wouldn't be you in this case. Like, if anything, this is just a freebie standing. Then also the other issue for me is this. I'm going to be generous to him. And when he says he had top 10 offers he turned down because they weren't like contenders for the trophy, I think he's doing the Kassad/pro player thing where top 10 is just like, it's actually a quality scale. It's not there's 10 teams and of these 10 teams, mine were in the rankings of VRS or HLTV. I don't think that, because if I look at the top 10 on, for example, HLTV, right, I don't believe you got an offer from Falcons. Knock that out. I don't believe you got one from Spirit. It's already basically implied. He's talked mad shit on all Russians, but I don't think you joined Spirit. Furia, I can't imagine a universe where you have an offer from that team. It just seems absurd unless it was for next year. Vitality's already number 4. Mouse, like, as far as we can tell, you made all the comments in the interviews, bro, that this could be a test. They already could have signed you if that was true. And I'm sorry, if you look at the role you'd play in that team, whose spot are you taking? What, PRs or something? Maybe that's one. Put a little asterisk with pencil next to that one. Navi, they're not bringing you back, homie. I already dropped dime on that on the other episode. Like, spoiler, I was actually low-key shocked as someone who's known to be a hater. Not even true, just think he's a bit of an idiot. They actually seemed to revere you less than I did in Navi. I thought you were pretty fucking good in 2024. They didn't seem to think so, bro. They thought, like, actually that milk was going spoiled. 9Z is not a real top 10 team, so I hope that wasn't one of them. If it was, I'm with you. I wouldn't take that one either. Aurora is number 8. Mate, if you had the Aurora offer, I would have taken that one. I think that's better than any offer you're going to get. So I just hope for your sake that's not true. Because I also think someone like Ash would actually get you back in your roles, mate, and give you a chance to succeed. I think that would be a banging team for you. If you turned that down, I'd actually even ask how good do you think you are? Because surely you make that team a contender, you moron. They've got a bunch of good players. Number 9's G2, and I'm sorry, you're not getting any of those spots. Like, whose spot are you taking there? Fucking Hunter? Heavy God? No, you're not getting any of those spots. Like, fucking... No, that's it. There's no spot for you there. There's no spot for you. And then Bet Boom's number 10. You know what? That's full of Russians. I'm going to say you wouldn't join that. So here's what I think. The quick version is this. I think by top 10, he means like in terms of like, you know, expectations. And I think he means like FaZe and Astralis. And the joke is, I'm going to say right now as the last point, this is why it's bad. Actually, it's a based angle, because I thought you were just going to say JL's bad, but you mean it's bad for him. This is why it's bad, because when I ran down all the top 10 and all the spots, there's none free basically. Those literally are the two best teams you could join right now, JL, FaZe or Astralis. Like, you would fit into both teams, mate. Like, I think you would cook if you were in fucking FaZe. I actually think Astralis, you would just slot right into sort of like a Ryu Jabby spot and be better. I think you'd be better in these teams. And if you don't join those ones, I went down the whole top 30. The only orgs left, because I'm assuming you want a real salary too, not just some baby salary. The only other ones after that is like Liquid and Nip. Like, Not impossible you could join those and get a good salary and be a good team. But if these teams are below you, I think you're going to have the really horrible 2027 when Vitality doesn't pick you up. You don't get any of these offers. I think if your offers really were Maus and FaZe, for example, I don't think you get those offers again after this. Because I also think this is something I've been thinking about for FaZe. It is insane for FaZe that they're using stand-ins and people from academies when you'd think, why aren't they getting the Dexters and the Gels? I think it's implied they don't have much money. And actually, Dexter would jump. I think Gel actually is implied he turned him down and said, no, I don't want the spot. Like, actually, you're not good enough for me, as it were. So I think he's sort of ended his career here, boys. I think it's actually sad because I also think he forgets, like every great player who goes on the bench, or every month that passes, mate, you may as well be in like that Back to the Future picture of his family. You're just fading away. You're fading away. And in 3 months of no playing, at least you're going to play 2 events now. In 3 months of no playing, no one remembers you, mate. No one's going, bring that guy back. Like, remember, I even think the Dexters of the world only get a little bit of credit because they play a very unique role. Orpa, there just aren't many of them. And he chose to sort of leave because Monacy replaced him and he just chose to sit on the bench. Jail was kicked out of Na'Vi. They didn't think he was good enough anymore. That's what people remember in the back of their heads. And as I said with the Maus one, Maus just had needed to win one of those tournaments. They didn't. So no one remembers. So I actually think, I agree with you. I actually think it's bad for him. I actually don't think it's bad for him to stand in for Vitality. I think actually under the circumstances, probably one of the better players they could bring in to just only do 2 events and never join. But I really hope he doesn't believe any of the things I just said. He better not believe it's a 6-man lineup. He better not believe he's joining. And certainly, if any of those teams are listed and the ones he turned down, I actually am really worried about his career. Like, call your fucking agent, mate, because I don't know who. I would just put it the other way on him. Who do you think's going to sign it? Did you think it was going to be like Falcons and Fury and stuff? Because if you do, I don't know what fucking dimension you're existing in right now. Those players don't respect you like that. Maybe in the past they did. Not in 2026, second season. Okay, Maui, what is your bad point?
Mine is another player that I feel like squandered the opportunities that he also had. LauNX
perfect
earlier,
segue in it.
Yeah, practically the same thing. Different story, but I mean, I brought him up as a bad point in a previous show, but now it just gets even worse because now he tweeted about the fact that he hasn't been streaming lately because he had to break up some dogs that were fighting in his house, and then now he has some injuries on his hands, so he can't even play for a while. It's just, I mean, in all honesty, why announce that? Why would you ever announce that?
How bad is it? How bad is it?
It did have like you can look up the tweet. He does have like a coloration on his hand. It does look like, and it has a plaster or something like that. So if you look up on his Twitter, I could believe it could be painful. Put out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It actually has the graphic warning on Twitter. You know, to stop you if you don't want to see it. No, yeah, it's not. I mean, it doesn't look good. It also could impede his performance for a guy that also had offers, but then take the offers on whatever teams, and he said he didn't want to play for money. I bet money would feel really good right now if you were just in this exact same situation. But now you're just at home with not getting any sort of salary and just having to, you know, try to move forward from this for LauNX is gonna probably mean to me that you're playing for a team that's barely top 30. That's what I'm worried about for him, for a guy that I thought for the majority of this season or this year that he was the best player on foot. You would have, I think Jokes has kind of now blossomed a bit more, and I think that the people like myself that early predicted that he was going to be the best player for them, I think that's proving to be fairly accurate. But I feel like right now LauNX's stock has never been lower. This is just a pretty sad tale of a guy who seemed to overrate himself, and that, I mean, when it came out also that certain teams that he was talking to got players that were more experienced, but it sounded like they were cheaper.
Yes.
That's kind of an absurd thing to say when you also say that you aren't going to join teams for money. Like, what you can't, it's like, so you needed this super perfect Goldilocks situation of a team that pays you enough and is competitive enough, but you're not going lower than other people who are arguably more talented, skilled, or experienced than you. That's just an awful situation. And it just reiterating from what I've said in the past, I think the career management has just been horrendous. I think it's just been really, really bad for this guy.
Do you think in both these cases, though, so, oh my gosh, Kassad, I'm going to go back to something he said to me once. That's always a dangerous place to be. Do you think that this is the players and maybe them thinking that their stock is more valuable than it is, or maybe sort of having unnecessary expectations? Or do you think that this is management and agents? Because I know Cassard hates a player agent because he'll tell you that they mislead players and they hype up the salaries and all of that. What do we think? I don't know.
I'll give you a quick angle on that.
JL.
Right, first of all, I know what you mean about the agent thing. What people hear is this, right? The agents obviously sometimes in this case have a conflict of interest, which is some of them get paid on commission based on the deal you do. And so, for example, they might want you to essentially only sign with big orgs because then they'll get more money for the transfer and therefore their part will be higher. Whereas in this case, maybe the player would have accepted, like just a good team with a smaller org, but you'd get paid less. So that can be a problem. I don't know in this case who these guys' agents are or if they even have them.
It says Achieve Minds. Achieve Minds is his
same guy. Yeah, he represents Gizme, and he's also got JBC.
He represents XFloud, who took his spot.
Okay. Already a conflict of interest, but whatever. We know that's already just seen spots. There's about 5 agencies, boys.
Yeah. I did a podcast with this guy who runs Achieve Minds. He's actually he was like a sports, I don't know if he's a psychologist, but he was definitely like a mental coach or something like that as well. So, I mean, some of his players have great careers, so maybe
one wonders how good they were if they then chose to be an esports agent. But anyway, that's by the by. The other question you asked is, I think, actually the more appropriate one, which is, believe it or not, you know how I said players might see, for example, FaZe as a top 10 team? Even though for me, if you say top 10, I think you mean the 10 best teams in the world right now, right? In the same way, the real problem these players have is they aren't idiots. They're just doing things like, in my brain, I know I'm this good, therefore I should be on a team that's as good as that. And what they aren't often able to understand is, maybe other teams don't see you as good as you think you are. Maybe they just see you as like, oh, FUT was all right, I guess. Like if I am an elite team, by the way, I barely had to take advantage of and take notice of FUT. They were never really on my radar. There were how many tournaments they were deep in any playoff runs. So you might think, maybe from scrims you're hot shit. You were the highest rated player. Maybe you're thinking, I'm like one of the 10 best players in the world. I don't think any other team would believe that though. So essentially, it is like a perception misalignment is what you're asking.
That's a good.
They think they're elite, but maybe they aren't, or maybe they secretly are, but no one else knows it, if you know what I mean. I'll even be fair in that sense.
Yeah, that's a great framing, because it's when you're saying that you're getting offers from, or you're talking to top 10 teams, a top 10 team has to think about the fact that they're already a top 10 team. Yeah. They're already there. Would you be that signing that would actually push them over the line to be then a top 5 team? Because generally speaking, for people like JL and longs, the answer is just unequivocally no. You're not punching into the spirit and vitality territory by getting longs. Like Aurora is not thinking that longs is the missing piece to then start getting into semifinals.
Anyway, on this whole, did you have some more, by the way? Or was that just the question? Did you have more about this?
I'm just sad because I think both of these players have potential to be somewhere. Like I feel like they are going to fade into oblivion, and it does make me a bit sad.
By the way, I even think that here's another thing people do. Why can't a team just sign all these players? Is there not some team out there with ambition that could just sign Dexter, lauNX, and JL? It's a pretty good fucking 3 players. Like, even if one of them fails, 2 of them surely are going to be good. By the way, lauNX even is good. We know that as long as he's not breaking up dogs fighting inside his house. Brother, do you hear how that sounds? Listen. I will correct a mistake I have to make, which is you have to remember that not all of these people, because it comes from Romania, that doesn't mean he's on some crazy fucking, they're not in some outrageous living. He might be rich for all we know, he might be upper middle class. The problem is when you come from Romania and you say you break up dogs fighting in your house, I think that means you have 2 dogs, could just be normal dogs like Labradors, and they just fought over a toy and you tried breaking it up and you hadn't got caught. But the problem is when you come from Romania and you say I'm breaking up dogs fighting in my house, people might think you're doing dog fighting, brother. That actually sounds like in your backyard, you were like, come on in the blue and in the red. Break it up. I want a clean fight here. Oh, bloody hell, what have you done? I turned down a FaZe offer with this hand. Also, crazy idea. Because in that case, by the way, I think he just had an accent with his own dogs, But I'm also going to say this, because I'm sick of pro players doing this. Your hands are your fucking livelihood. Get them out of dogs' mouths. Like, what? Why does that even have to be a PSA? Brother, that makes you all the money in your whole career. And you've got an even worse position than JL. JL was number 5 on HLTV in 2024. He's won a major and was the MVP. He's he's won a gang of trophies. He could at least delude himself he's a Vitality player. Like Maui says, why are any of these teams looking at you and going, tell you what we need to get us to the major? lauNX. No one's ever said that. In fact, the joke is, it's maybe even implied, edgy take, maybe even Foot said, here's what we don't need to get to the major, lauNX. Because I actually wonder with how he left the team, mate. He went out because he was ill. Then he came back and he was ill and shit. And then magically, they were just like, actually, he's leaving the team. And we're supposed to believe he left for his own choice. Could be the case. The problem is, then where's the offer? Like, I don't know. Guys, learn the concept of how a monkey swings in the trees. You don't fucking let go of the last tree till you got the other branch, do you mad fuck? Otherwise, guess what? You can't fly. You just go and die on the ground, don't you? So why would you let go of that foot? Because here's what's crazy. If I go and look now still, I still think him in Foot would be the best place he could be right now in Counter-Strike. He was really good. And if anything, because the others are all unknowns, we all went, I remember that. He was giving you actual props. You were getting credit for that. That was actually really good for you. So I think it's terrible that he's left. As I said earlier on the GL thing, I think he completely misplayed his hand, not only turning the offers down, but then going out of his way to tell the world he did it. Like, bro, don't do it. Here's the thing. You tell the world that story in 2 years when you're in fucking Falcons, and you do it as a funny story. Like, you won't believe this. I actually turned down a big offer. You don't do it now when you don't have a team, because I've got to say, he's another guy where I think to myself, any team you're going to join is going to be smaller than you think it should be, but you got to join the team where, unlike what Maui said, you can make the difference. I'll give you an obvious example right now. Everyone knows I don't rate Jacob on FaZe. Mate, you put fucking lauNX in Jacob's spot. We can cook. You can be top 10 then. You're not going to win a trophy, but you know what? You might be in a bunch of playoffs. I also think you'd be good. I think you'd actually be a good fucking player there. So if I go and look at all the teams out there, mate, it ain't happening. He's actually a player I'm really worried for. Like, and now this injury thing as well. Who knows how long that takes to fix? If that's like another 2 months, he can't even play CS. By the time 2027 comes, people might have just forgotten you. And you might be back down to, you are like on, I mean, at that point, you're not even on Gamer Legion, you know what I mean? You are just on some random team again with a bunch of, I mean, the obvious, I'll tell you what, I'll make a fucking Mystic Meg prediction of the future. It's really sad. That he's playing with Romanians again, like Zello and all those fucking guys from the back in the day after it failed on Falcons and bleed the first time. That'd be really sad, because if you don't know, he's like 21 years old. He looked really fucking good earlier this year, and Foot looked like they were the revelation of CS in 2026, and now all of a sudden that storyline is derailed, and I don't even know if he plays for a top team in 2020. I think it's just sad. I'm agree with you. This one, there's not even a hate rank. I just think it's sad. I actually think it's a really sad circumstances, because it's an example of someone who's thinking, my stock's peaking. And it's like, no, your potential stock was peaking. Jill at least had a real stock once. Yours didn't even get to the point. Because like I'm saying, I think if you sat all the top 10 teams down, none of them think lauNX is some sick player. Because even if it's true, by the way, he won an official game against them and beat them in scrims. There's a million players had pop-offs in scrims and thought they were the shit and all that. So it's just an example. Yeah, go on. Go on.
It's like bragging that you held Bitcoin when it hit 100K and you still have it. Like, no, you were supposed to sell.
Yeah,
like, you're supposed to 100% go in in that.
Yes, because by the way,
if something relatable for many viewers.
If he did instantly go to a team at the beginning of the offseason, by the way, now here's another. I'll just throw this part out there. I hadn't even considered this. You do now know that you don't have a team and you've injured your hand. You're completely fucked up, right? You are now aware you should have taken any of those offers now, because at least you'd be on a team with an injured hand. Now it's crazy work, bro. Now, and lastly, just because it was Kassad who mentioned it publicly, it is known, and I would assume behind the scenes people know this. Kassad actually predicted, by the way, before this guy left Foot, that he would actually be a problem, and said, because he coached him, that he is known to be someone who is a ticking time bomb and that you just will have problems with him. If that's already your rep, and now you've done these stupid comments implying like you think you're better than you are, and you've injured your hand, that might just be 3 for 3, mate. That might just be down to tier 2 you go. Because teams have to take a gamble on you. You're not the guaranteed player that'll be elite, unfortunately. So I think it's just sad. I'm with you.
Don't worry, you'll get to see him. He is part of the Romanian team for the Esports Nation Scout.
There you go. Just like JL, remember, he was carrying... Oh, no, I'm not JL. Who was it?
Ultimate.
Ultimate, there you go. Just like, by the way, anytime your last hope is you and Ultimate are playing against Billy Bob Nobody from fucking Latvia, like, it's not a good situation. You and Brokey, coming up, do you want to see Ultimate, lauNX and Brokey? Then watch ENC. No one else will be watching it except all the pro players, because they aren't playing it. It's fucking tournament no one gives a shit about. Anyway, we will now go, and there is quite a fun poly market, which is if you go to the props section, there's one that we have all talked about so much from CSGO onwards, which is this one. FACEIT has reintroduced classic CSGO feature, which is that at half time, they open the comms and you can talk to the other team before you start the second half. If people don't know, that used to be how CSGO was in the beginning for a number of years. Obviously, we're going to speculate they took it away because they thought people were being toxic and the game wasn't over and they were needling people and saying inappropriate. Well, I can guarantee people were saying inappropriate things. But that's also just CS, isn't it? So the question is, since FACEIT is testing it out, just FACEIT at the moment, it's not CS, just FACEIT. Will it actually remain after they've finished testing it? At the moment, the poly market is at 42% chance according to the traders. So all I want to know is these two things, Tech Girl. One, do you think they keep it? And two, which would you take right now? Yes or no?
I can't justify. If I know, I would no, it won't go further. I wish it would though.
So you would take no?
I'd take no.
I would also take no on this just because, well, I feel like it's two sides of this for FACEIT. They're either thinking one about the player experience, which there's already so much talk about people saying that there's abuse or verbal things, and that I mean I see this especially come up with the women that play FACEIT about how does this guy get away with this thing, and they're usually pretty. They lock it down. If a guy starts harassing women or whatever, they usually just ban the guy or whatever. And I feel like this is sort of asking for it in a way. Like, I'm not trying to victim blame the men that are harassing women, but there's going to be just so many more of those guys that just say expletives at halftime. Sure. And I also think that you're really playing with fire with the streamer community, where their lives, if One Pixel actually did. I think he played FACEIT recently, and there was like a clip on there, and people are just shouting at him. He's shouting at them. Yep. It's kind of funny, but all it takes is one guy to say a slur, and it's over. It's so over. And especially for a streamer that's as big as 20K, 30K viewers, or like even like an Olaf Meister getting a few thousand. I think some of those guys just have to alt tab at halftime. I don't think they can really even just stay there because you run too much of a risk with the fact that you have sponsors on your FACEIT pugs that you're playing. So you can't have that that sponsor of your individual sponsor on the page as some dude is saying the N-word. It's just too much.
Here's what's sad. I actually think they should keep it because I do think it's a classic part of CS culture. Like, first of all, if people don't know, it is how pogs used and scrims even used to work in the UK CS scene. Famously, you would just be typing the whole time you're dead to the fucking other team, baiting them, saying they're shit. The guy who killed you probably cheats. Even if he doesn't cheat, he's a virgin, and you're fucking going out on the weekend and he's going to be here playing CS all. Yeah, that's half the thing was just talking shit. It's like playing basketball at the park or something. The problem is, as pointed out here, remember, this is FACEIT, not Valve. I think Valve, actually, if they really thought, knew what I know, would make it a thing again. I think it would make CS more popular and play matchmaking. I think it'd even let people sort of like let off steam and vent a little bit when you're sick of the other team and want to talk some shit to them. And it might even imply to make people stay the whole half instead of quitting after 3 rounds. The problem is, FACEIT specifically, as pointed out, has gone out of their way to do that thing on social media where they go out of their way to show people that, like, you weren't just banned for no reason. You have talked shit to the admin and you have said these things. And so because they've taken this harsh stance, I don't think you can have essentially an open forum where people in the middle of a competitive game just get to say anything into a microphone and the other people receive it. Like, I'm with you. Streamers angle is insane. You could just get someone banned off their whole stream saying the wrong political shit. Also, as pointed out about the women angle, like, there's definitely going to be, like, remember, you can't win either way. If you play bad, they're just going to insult you. If you play good, they're just going to insult you even more, aren't they? So I don't think you can't get a good angle. I think it's such a bad look, unfortunately, specifically for FACEIT to have it. So I've got to say, I would go with no on this. I actually think at 42%. I think people are just being deluded, thinking how fun it was in CSGO. And it was a famous meme, everyone wanted to come back in CS. I think 42% chance. I would take that. I think that is excellent value because it is going to be no, and they will take it away after however long a month of trying it out. And then they'll just say, they'll have some data reason, like it cost 28% increase in reports, and they'll have some reason why. And then they'll justify it. And if anything, then no one will ever talk about this feature ever again. It'll just be some old boomer shit like me going, yeah, I remember back in CSGO when Anders used to do events and people used to talk shit after time. Everyone go, no, Thorin, I don't remember either of those things.
I don't remember that.
Anyway, we'll now go to my point. So, obviously, I have to use this moment. If you don't know Snake and Banter, by the way, Tech, it's basically like, it's supposed to be a topical news. It's really just like Thorin and Maui just pick all their favorite things to big up, all the things they hate to like conveniently hate on. And then ugly can just be anything. Just half the time, it's just another bad point, just disguised, basically. So good. Hey, you know what? Remember that little boy Spinx? Everyone said he was a little beta. You know, wasn't that good? He pretty ruined Vitality. Fucking really good at CS though, isn't he? I'll tell you what, I understand this. Spoiler, I also like players that are really skilled but toxic. That's also another
Wait, what's your bad point?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I think I scrolled down the thing. Oh, yeah, right, actually. You're right. That's,
okay.
That's later. That was the good. Yeah, what you're about. Oh, actually, bad ones.
It was spoiler.
Don't worry. It was always going to be that anyway. Right. Here's what the bad point is. It's actually a subtle one, which is if anyone follows, I actually need to find the exact name because I've realized he actually only says like unkund as the thing there. I'll figure out what the actual name is. It is Jesper Larsen 222. It's the main person who does the updates of the VRS things on social media. And he does it almost every single match and during tournaments and after each round. And essentially, if you follow it, you have to think of it like a stock tracker, but for different teams. So he also is clever enough to do it on the teams you care about. If BC game when he knows you care about simple, here's how many points they're going to gain. And here's what could happen if they place it in the tournament. If FaZe Clan becomes relevant, he does it. If Liquid's on a roll, here's what this means to them. Now, if you follow his Twitter, not only is it really good, because he's one of the only people who actually understands VRS, seemingly better than Valve, because Valve don't know the esports side, and a lot of team orgs clearly don't. Right, I'm going to make this point. If you follow his Twitter, it is so obvious. Almost every CS org out there that is a top org still doesn't understand how VRS works. They still have that really scoffed idea of like, VRS is where you like go to some lands and you win some games and get prize money. And then, question mark, you're at the major. Congrats. And you can go to Dracula and you can go to, and what they don't realize is that's not how the circuit works. That the best way to get to the major and to be high in VRS is to go to tier 1 tournaments during the season. And the problem is you get your invite so many months in advance for those tier 1 tournaments that, for example, this season, actually Blast Bounty was really important for some teams that aren't elite teams. Actually, this first year's EWC, even going to that LAN qualifier was massive for some teams to be in the mix at all, to have a chance to ever be like the last invite for a tier 1 tournament. And as a result, to get to that major at the end of the year. And what people don't realize is this: we're still treating the player break like it's a pure break and we reset to 0, and then you sign some shit hot new players and like, hey, our lineup's pretty good now. This could have real potential. And what you don't know if you're someone like a Liquid is Liquid, by the way, is in one of the hardest spots of any team in tier 1 if people don't know. They already beat fucking Falcons and G2, and because they couldn't beat Spirit on LAN, they still are going to get very few invites, if not 0 invites for this. They probably have to do an insane miracle run at EWC now to have any relevance this season. Otherwise, they're going to be the team actually at the end of the season going to those shitty little LANs and praying they get the craziest online qualifiers. Otherwise, they're not going to be in the tournaments, even though I think we all agree they've made good roster moves, everything's pointing upwards. That's not how the circuit works anymore. Like, basically, my point that's bad is this: I think orgs just don't understand VRS and invites still. And I think we're all still operating on the old paradigm and thinking that if this current roster today is good, somehow you end up in tournaments in a few months. And we're forgetting that like the tournament invites went out like now for, 3 months from now or something. Also, if you're already low down the VRS, like in the case of Liquid, they almost never could have gotten in. You asked them to beat like 3 top 10 teams just to get in the mix for it, So I think the sad thing is a lot of orgs are putting millions of dollars and making roster moves when it's probably not like the appropriate time to do that. Like, essentially, here's the way I would frame it. Based on what I know, you actually have to, if your roster's semi-fucked, I actually think you can't even wait until the major and the end of the season. You probably have to be really proactive and start immediately, like one by one, taking people out and just gambling that like you might have to give up the end of a season so that the next season you have the full chance to go through it all and do something. Because it actually looks right now like a lot of people have made what on paper are good moves, but it's not going to end up mattering because you won't see them this season. You'll watch all the tournaments, they won't be there. Thoughts?
I agree, but also I don't really understand VR.
No one does. So, I'm just following what he says. Like he actually pointed out off the Liquid hype, like they're actually not going to be in the tournaments, basically.
This is one I don't have too much to add to. I mean, I think you explained it pretty thoroughly there. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, I would love to see the teams kind of move in a little bit faster. I think that's probably one of the few detracting elements of VRS, that the invites happen so far in advance. I mean, talking to Messioso about this. I think last year, for example, something like 4 or 5 tier 1 events had invite dates on the exact same day. That was another very odd part of this whole VRS system where I personally would think that you would just do VRS invites not in waves, but just, I don't know, 2 months or 3 months.
Here's the problem now, as far as I know, this is actually something orgs wanted. Because, for example, if you have the Russian player, how do you get his visa in time? And shit like that. I'll actually read out just the top quote. I found exactly it. On the 31st of July, he said, Liquid is out of Blast Bounty, and with that, also completely out of the Tier 1 invite bubble. We won't see them again in a big event until mid-November.
Yeah,
that's like the
crazy.
end of the season.
That's basically just before the major, right?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
It's super disheartening for orgs like Liquid who felt like because also if you're not going to see them again until November, this is actually a season that Liquid have to go to the smaller lands.
Yeah.
You're not even, there's another point here for me that is just that I think that I was thinking of making this a point, so I'll just kind of co-op this because I don't think I have too much more to add to the VRS part of this, is that I personally think that part of the reason that North America also isn't doing well is because it's just not really a team to root for. But you actually have some legacy Liquid fans that do pop up and they are still around. But if they just have nothing to watch other than a kick stream that has 4,000 viewers, they're just going to move on to something else. They're just going to watch something else. Like, I'm always surprised when Liquid do their little meet and greet sort of sessions. I think like Darth Mike hosted one of them around the time of one of the events recently, and there's just a surprising amount of turnout that people that are Liquid fans that are, because a lot of new gen viewers and followers of the scene, they're going to be they just follow the best players wherever he goes, I go there. But like there are of the old school fans who, by the way, have more money to support the scene. There are people that are in the sort of old way of seeing their favorite team, sticking with their favorite team. They're a diehard Liquid fan, and if Liquid is nowhere on the radar, they're just going to watch something else. They're just going to watch, there's a million other things that are competing for your attention, and if your favorite team is not active, if they're not competing at a high enough level, then they probably aren't going to hold your attention.
I don't have anything to add to that.
All good.
I worry. I think there's like positives of VRS, but I do think that there is a lot of issues that still need to be ironed out, right? And the impact we see it's just kind of spreading. And I still don't understand how it works, and I've tried. I have to follow people on social media to figure it out.
Unfortunately, the actual fact that you can't is, believe it or not, one of the features of it. It's because it takes into account so many different factors. It also makes it a lot harder to game the system. My problem is just this. Even though everyone went like, haha, just get a Messioso, there's only one of those. There's one Messioso and there's 2 guys on Twitter, and they seem to have a really good grasp on this. But everyone else, like I say, it feels like everyone else is a season behind. I will say, fair enough, it actually wasn't that great a topic for the show, because to be fair, I burned a lot of the points myself, didn't I? Like, it's one of those ones I thought, but whatever. I gave you a free mini Thorin's thoughts there. That was all good. So, if we move on now, we will go to the good points, which obviously I've secretly burned mine, haven't I? But as I said earlier, if you know the way everyone's bread is buttered, you knew what I was going to fucking say earlier. So, Tech Girl, what is good right now? What do you like?
I am very excited that JT gets a chance to show what he's capable of without TC. Sorry, Tian. I think this was one of, I've never really had much interest in Liquid for the last few years. I kind of feel like that's a place where players go to end their careers and for things to go wrong. So I had concerns when they announced JT, because obviously he is South African, I'm South African, there's a loyalty there. But I think that the thing that I like about him being at Liquid is we now get to see how he operates without TC, because we've never seen that before. This is a player that has consistently, wherever he's gone as IGL, TC's been the coach. And I think this will be good for JT's stock, because he'll get an opportunity for people to see that he can actually perform outside of the TC structure, if you like. This is very South African, though, because I like to just, make it all about
As I said,
South
we
Africa.
all just do all our own biases on this show anyway, so go for it.
My thing.
At the end of the day, that's the point of the show, because am I really going to comment on a regular basis on rank 19th Bulgarian team got 1 new player? I don't give a fuck. I don't care. That's why I don't talk about them. That's why they're not on the show. That's why we don't talk about whatever. I don't know. I don't need to keep taking jabs at random countries.
All right. Yeah.
Respect Bulgaria. No, I've already liked a lot of what I've seen from Liquid with JT. I feel like it's it's clear that there is a comfort amongst the players that wasn't there with Shuhei. And I feel like one guy that is actually more indicative of the system working or not working is actually Naf. I think Naf has actually seen a bit of a resurgence in play that shows to me that the system is easy to follow. Because what was concerning about Naf when he was playing under Shuhei, people were talking about worst slump of his career. He was just should he be kicked for Liquid? Is he going to retire? Is this the end of Naf as we know it? And then now you look at the last 3 months, 1.11 rating, like totally reasonable. What you expect from a guy that was top 30 in the world for 4 or 5 years straight. You just got a completely new Naf suddenly, and I'm really glad that he stuck around, that management kept him around, that they didn't decide to just pull the plug on him. Because I think that Naf just needs a system that's easy to follow. I think Naf needs a system that basically is like, there's action going on over here, and he's going to pick his spot on the other side of the map to either make his own incision because he thinks it's necessary, or oftentimes you'll see games where Naf has a really good rating, but he goes like 13 kills and just like 7 deaths. That's a really good Naf game, by the way, because that means he didn't give up easy kills. He probably got primarily impactful. He didn't give up easy deaths. He got primarily impactful kills. And on top of that, of course, you look at the star player, the good players on the team, or like the guys that are supposed to carry. And Elige is just on another level with JT. I mean, they were from day one extremely synergistic. So this is a new era of Liquid, and it kind of a shame that you bring up the fact that we're not going to see them at more stuff. But there's a couple teams that I'm really curious about that are going to be hanging around in the tier 2 space and going to some of these local lands that I want to keep my eye on. And Liquid joins their ranks along with BC Game and 100 Thieves.
I just need to know, what is the JT secret sauce? Because here's the thing, if you've ever actually talked to him, he comes off as a very sort of chilled, humble guy. He's the sort of person where I've talked to him privately, never took offense to any critique of his game or team and by the way, the sort of person that I know absolutely knows online. When he was in Cloud9, I was like, why the fuck have they picked up this team? You're supposed to be Cloud9. You're supposed to have a major win. This is a fucking budget team. What a waste of time. Never taken offense to any of that. So what's bizarre is you would actually think that's the opposite sort of person would succeed with Elige, because Elige is portrayed as this ultimate princess figure where it's oh, you're walking on eggshells around Elige. Oh, does Elige like that? What does Elige think of that? Does Elige actually think that's good when he said he'd do that, or is he secretly going to get kicked from Liquid? Everyone thinks that he's this big scary thing, but somehow JT, now in 2 different teams, just perfectly synergizes with the guy, and it doesn't seem like there's any friction with them at all. They're both on the same page in the game, and absolutely Elige has played literally the best CS of the last 5 years of his career under this particular in-game leader. So I actually think it works for both players. It's why I actually called for this move months and months ago. Thought it was a banger. It was also just a slam dunk for me for Liquid, because you also aren't in a position where you're going to get big names to join, especially not an IGL position. So that's just an example of actually an IGL that, if anything, had bumped his head against the glass ceiling and hadn't got the chances at the bigger org. And right now, your org's team isn't big, but you're still a big org, still a move up for JT. And then there's the Elige angle as well, which is you're sort of gambling. If you bring on JT, maybe it reclaims some of Elige's prime. Has done so far, but if people don't know, with the exception of the Spirit game, he's basically carried every single game they've played against every single level of opposition they've played, and it looks great. That part seems like it's fixed, and actually JT looks like he can have a decent career in this team. So first of all, he's legit. I think that's been shown. It has fixed Elige, and you know what? I'm not going to go crazy. As said, they're not going to be at many big tournaments. I still do think that, much like some loser sat in his apartment spending all day just watching anime, they are still just one piece away from the world caring about them.
I almost
fucked it up there, but I landed it in the end. I landed it in the end. That's all that matters.
I did wonder.
And he needs another chance, just like Chopper. Okay, I'm just going to stretch the reference even further.
Whatever.
No. Stop.
I think Chopper did get his name from One Piece. Just saying.
Okay.
I think he had it as his
he also is overrated, so it all... he's overrated, and I don't want to see him again. So actually, yeah, synchronicity is crazy. Right, Maui, this actually does tie in as a segue to your good point.
Yeah. I didn't decide on one to pick, because I'm gonna frame this in
both.
Yeah, it'll be both, but it's actually kind of for a greater reason overall. So my good point is actually JBOEN and Jorko. I could pick out just the individual characteristics from both of these players, but I actually am just sort of thankful that both FaZe and Liquid realize we don't need to play with a 0.9 rated opper. It's just not, we don't need to stick around, because I felt like there was a lot of, they were just a little gun shy. A lot of top orgs just seem like they're so gun shy with actually looking into tier 1.5, tier 2, even tier 3 roughly, and saying, wow, this guy is a sick opper in CS2, and we should probably take a chance on this. Because I just think that these guys are made from something a little bit different than the guys who sort of came up in CSGO, who really honed their playstyle in CSGO. They clearly haven't adapted. I just think that there's still aspects of opping that you heard little bits from, like when Fallen came on our podcast and I asked him very directly about what's the difference between opping in CSGO and CS2. And I think that anybody that's played at length can really kind of attest to this, that it just feels different. And I think that the way that the tick rate kind of works, like the sub tick aspect of it, where it's like where your crosshair is the millisecond you click, not where your crosshair is kind of headed on that next tick. So flicks feel a little different. Just the movement aspect and counter strafing, you tend to miss more shots, because when I watch JBOEN and Jorko, Jorko, first of all, I mean, in terms of the comparison to Broky, he's a bit more aggressive. I would even say like he can be a little bit more of a solid trade fragger, because he kind of feels more comfortable when he's in the pack with the players. Whereas Broky sort of wanted his space. He wanted to be a little bit more back. He has that super explosive element, but it wasn't always just off the back of running in with teammates. And then Jorko, just the way he aims is just something that I brought up on the Blast desk, and I'll bring it up again. To me, this is a guy, because when I first started playing CS2 and talking to people, also like high level oppers and stuff, it just felt like the flicks weren't exactly going where you land, where you click, because they come out that one tick earlier that people have explained in depth who know more about tick rate and how the game works, where it's just like Jorko's crosshair, it very clearly lands on the target before he clicks. And I think that makes a huge difference on just the consistency of the shot. Okay. And so both of these guys they just look like CS2 oppers to me in a way that Broky and Ultimate simply didn't. They didn't pass the test. And I'm just glad for the sake of both those orgs that they finally said, enough's enough. We need to move on. And I just hope it pays off for both of them, because I think you should look to the future of oppers, especially when it's like we can't have this conversation that, oh, rating nerfed opping, oh, CS2 nerfed opping all the time. Like, it's been 3 years roughly, it's been long enough. We've seen the game. Like, we can't all just be giving the excuse that opping's harder when there are kids that are opping at a very high level in the tier 2 space. So I'm glad that they did it.
I kind of like that, though, just because I think I was getting really sick of that conversation. I mean, even with the Liquid one, where people would be like, oh, they need to get an offer. Where's Dexter? And I was like, I think I was on I can't remember if it was a desk or a podcast, where I literally said, I'm going to ask you this question, but you cannot tell me that Dexter's the replacement.
That was with Dustin and me.
That was with Dustin. Yeah, I did. I was like, you can't say Dexter. And then Dust was like, and I was like, but that's the problem, because that's where we've been. No, but I think it is, and it's in Dust's defense, like, it is because that is where we were. Like, where are you in tier 1? And we're not looking
ask him for one.
It's
kind of a bait and switch on him a little bit, but
I was bullying him, but
Dust, who's a famous Russian opper who isn't on a top team right now? You can't say Dexter. He's like literally about.
You can't say Dexter. Everyone was stuck there, and I think, it was a frustration. It was frustrating because we kept saying that, like, there's the AWP market is dead, and there's there's where are they going to go? What are they going to? And none of us went, I don't know, like, maybe we should go look at these tier 2 teams and take a risk. Let's see what's happening down there. Like, it wasn't even in the conversation. And I think it's important for, like, the longevity of the sport, right? Is that you kind of do have to bring new talent up.
Definitely.
Maybe they won't be that great, but that is kind of what you have to do. You have to take those risks once in a while. So I'm excited to see where it goes. But obviously, like we said, we're probably not going to see a lot of Liquid. So that'll be depressing.
No, I actually agree on the angle. That's also why, even though they definitely got a solid year extra out of the game, if you are one of those AWPers who actually isn't that good now, you just had a name because you were a good AWPer in CSGO, I think your era is done. I don't think you ever come back to the top again, mate. Like, I'll tell you another example of someone where it's not his fault, because as far as I can tell, it was actually because of how expensive his contract was. I think Pius is in a bad spot for next year as well, boys. Like, that whole move of he could have been in foot and then maybe heroic, and instead it's neither now, and he's just sitting there and someone replaced him in GT. That makes me think, like, how far do you think down the rankings are we going before someone's going to gamble on you, mate? Because you were just, like, good, but not excellent. And even then you had certain other elements. You had bad rifle. That actually is a negative. So at that point, you do gamble on the 21-year-old. You do gamble on the 19-year-old phenom. And actually, both these players, the one thing you can see, because they already were doing it before they joined, is they clearly can land shots. Like, they've got some talent. So I agree. I actually think it's pretty good. Because if you actually go right now in the like top 15 teams on HLTV, bro, there are some fucking sus-ass AWPers still in the top 15. Like, so we've got Mayan on 9Z, obviously not really because of him carrying, just because they got him there at the major. Wrinkle is on G2 right now. Zorti on Betboom was one of the worst players on the team. Forzi on Astralis fell off about 2.5 months ago. And Symmetry's the guy that everyone says great rifle because his AWP's fucking nothing on foot. Like, that's why they were going to sign some Pius. So if you are actually a decent AWPer, these two players included, you might not even have to be on these teams. You could just be a top player now, as long as you can continue to be good at that game. I think people are also ready because they're also sick of the same conversation of like, how many, there must be about 10 teams also have sat and gone, so do we get Dexter or not? Like, that was the option. You either get famous player who used to be good on the AWP instead of your current not that good but a name that you know before. Hey, Ultimate was good 2 years ago. Or in this case, there's now a third option, which is just go and try someone else actually who's an up and comer. There's got to be some there. And if anything, I'll even say the obvious one. There's actually something I predicted being in CS2, that the AWP market being mad would actually make it take a long time for new people to come because you can only have one AWPer in each team primarily. Whereas the other roles, you can change your roles up, you can do it. So as a result, like, those people have been blocking the other talents that are low. So even though I always say it's the hardest jump up to go from you playing online to I'm at a LAN versus like Shiro, like JBOEN found that out himself recently. That's really hard to jump up. But at the same time, because there's only 10 AWPers in the top 10 teams, there have to be a couple of gems out there we just haven't found. They just never got the chance because there's some Piuses of the world and Ultimates are blocking them from getting into the top 20 basically. So we just don't get to see them play at the LANs. Whereas now you see Jorko and JBOEN, they've already had games where people are like, okay, I'm willing to try this. No one's hating on these. Put it this way, everyone who thinks everyone hates on Jacob for no reason because he's a no-namer, no one's hating on these guys and they play a more important role. Like, aren't we all just sort of like, hey, I sort of see where you gambled on him now, actually. Even the JBOEN one, I knew nothing about this guy. He's on fucking big academy. I can see why they gave him a chance though, even though he's technically on loan, but whatever. That's also why if he doesn't sign here, maybe go to fucking big or another team. Okay. Now, Maui.
Let's go for your surprise. Or do we have your surprise?
No.
Good point.
No, mine comes in a second because first of all, Maui needs to tell me about how people could listen to my good point and enhance the experience.
They should. I would say that this message, first of all, is sponsored by Raycon. And if people do want to listen to it in a different way, they should consider the Raycon Essential Open Earbuds. I got my hands on these right here, and they're great. I mean, they look like this, okay? So when you get it obviously looks a little different than your standard earbud because it sits more on top of your earlobe as opposed to inside your ear. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like this has to be better for me in a way than having something in my ear all day. This just feels healthier. Okay. Like I can't, that's not something they wrote. They didn't tell me to say that, but this feels healthier to have it on my ear instead of in my ear where I've been listening. I don't know. I've gone through Nirvana's whole discography lately. I wanted to see what they're really all about and just beyond the big songs and everything like that. And I like it because then I get to just enjoy what it is I'm doing, whether that's at the gym and I'm hearing, it's pretty metal to just hear Kurt Cobain's vocals with the metal clanking in the background. I actually kind of love it. So I think that this is a pretty fun way to actually just consume media, to listen to your favorite podcast like Snake and Banter, or to listen to music like Nirvana. I like the open ear design. Like I said before, a lot of people I saw in Japan were wearing these as opposed to anything else. So I think that that's testament to the fact that because you can hear things outside a little bit better, it's just like the transparency feature that you would sometimes see. Like, this is real transparency. This is just true. It's truly transparent. If I'm walking in a crowded area and there's cars around or bikers or cyclists, whatever, or someone on an e-scooter, I want to hear it. So I actually think that this is a much more practical type of earbud that you would use in day-to-day walkable city life. So check them out. If you actually go to their website with buyraycon.com, BUYRAYCON.com/snakeopen, you can get 20% off. And I feel like you totally should try them out because they have, wait a second. Do they still have this? I think they still have yes, they have the 30-day guarantee that's still there on the script. We still have that. So if you don't like them, no harm, no foul.
Yeah. And also, that's interesting to hear you've been listening to Mana. I was a big fan of them many, many years ago. And actually, I've always thought in many ways you could have been a son. And you know what? If actually it was to get in your ear, there's all wax in there, isn't it? Like beeswax. That's an interesting one, isn't it? That's all I've done. And at the end of the day, if you didn't have those brilliant wake-ons, be a real downer, wouldn't it? Because you want to be out and about, turning around your life, listening to all the sounds of nature, you know, like the insects flying around the marigolds. So there you go. Straight for you know all the references. You know all the references. I can just do that. Right? Anyway, now we will go to the not very secret Thorin good point, which is, you know that Spinx, Spinx is really good, didn't he? If you don't know, I'll frame it this way. He has been a HLTV top 20 player many years. He was obviously even a major winner. He was on a team last year who was like number 2 or number 3 and was in all the semis. He won tournaments. But there was that stat before this tournament. He was one of the few players to have like HLTV top 20 states and never win an MVP award in his entire career. Even though you go back in time, he was mega on ends. On Vitality, you could argue he was the second best player. On Mouse, I actually think last year he was just their best player. And so finally, he has broken through and he has won an MVP award. It was a bit touch and go because everyone thought maybe Torsia would win it, but he was really good in the end. And yeah, I always tell people this. I get why people don't like Spinx, right? Look, beyond a modern reason people have invented to hate on him, even though as far as I know, he's never done anything outside the server to do anything outrageous. Take that and put it on the shelf for a second and be a big boy and just talk about CS. It's just because his style of play, especially 3 or 4 years ago, was a bit baity. He was the sort of player where, because he's really, really skilled and is mega mechanically at mid-range, he isn't the guy who's just going to run around the corner a wide swing and just gamble on the shot and try and fluke headshot you or do a spray down. He's the guy who's going to ensure that when he goes round, he takes the duel he likes, that he's going to win the duel he likes, and if possible, yeah, he's going to send a teammate first, let them scout out the person's position, and then he's going to peek and shoot someone that's looking at someone else. That is the best way as a skilled player to get a guaranteed kill, but I get that if you're a casual fan and you either think he's baiting, which is more of like a 3 or 4 year old topic, nowadays he's actually a lot more aggressive, but even worse, you're just someone who plays CS, so you just hate it when someone doesn't follow you up and you feel like they baited you. You might miss that he's really good at doing it though. Like, he's one of those people where it's not baiting, it's actually called trading, and it's the most fundamental principle in Counter-Strike. And I also think if you look on his team, actually wasn't Mouse way more of an uncertain factor before Spinx joined? Because before it used to be like, right, will exertion with that? Now you've never needed exertion to be the best player on Mouse for literally a year and a half now, because this guy will consistently show up and put numbers up, and he's just a very good player. And I think in CS, like all sports, we do this silly thing where we only talk and let fanboys let us only discuss the top 4 players in the world, and even then we make the 3rd and 4th player sound shit because they're not the number 1 player. And what we miss is, one of the best things about sports is you can talk about the top 20 players and they're all fucking good players. Like, there's people who are excellent and have different areas they shine in, and this guy has been an elite player now for like what, half a decade almost. Like, he's just had a long time where he's been a good player, and so I understand why he didn't win MVPs before. I think it's kind of cool he got one now though, to sort of validate his career that he was an elite player. Any thoughts, Tech Curl, on Spinx? Go wherever you want with that.
I've always liked Spinx. I always felt that when the Mouse signing happened, I thought it was an upgrade for them, and I mean, I don't want to say that I was running around being like, yeah, Spinx is the best, but like I never had a concern. I felt like he was a pretty consistent force in their team, and that was great. And I never really had any of the other opinions, so I was always kind of surprised when people hated on him a little bit based on what they thought they saw a couple of years previously, like you said. I'm glad he got his flowers. I want to see him get those flowers. Yeah, more flowers in a bigger tournament.
Because it would have really been a stain on his career, Maui, if he didn't ever gotten that.
Whatever. I didn't really like their first album that much.
Whatever. Thoughts on Spinx, Maui?
I mean, I think that it's kind of weird to say it's a long time coming, but it's just that he wasn't always in a situation where he would win and also be the MVP, because obviously when he was with Vitality, Zai was just going to scoop up all of those MVPs. I think that he had a couple chances when he had some deep tournament runs, I was almost kind of surprised that it was the case, because at Cluj, he didn't win it, but Nico got it, even though Maus won the tournament, even though he was like one of the best player. I think he was the best overall rated player for Maus. And it also was kind of weird because Nico didn't even do that great in the grand finals there for Falcons, and yet he still won the MVP. Yeah, it was just kind of a weird MVP for me. So I almost retconned that on an individual level where I thought
fair.
Spinx already had it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the case. And I just think that one thing that this can, I mean, whatever, it is a bit of a backhanded compliment, but I think that I'm going to just point it out anyways. I think that Spinx actually shows that you don't have to be the most mechanically elite player all the time to actually be a very consistent and strong player, because I just never really rated. I still to this day don't really rate Spinx's mechanics compared to some of the most.
Now he actually has a tier list of aimers where he had him a lot lower than I would probably. I think you had him like C tier or something, right? It was pretty low.
Roughly. Right? I mean, if you want to even by the numbers a little bit more of like, or something that's a little bit more definitive in stats. I mean, you could look at like Luz's dual swing rating, which is kind of like based off of the fights that one person's in versus the fights on the other, using kind of like all of the data of like positional fights. Like Spinx is just a little above average. He's like of the people that Luz has looked at, he has a lot of IGLs which are really, really far down. Like Spinx is just a little bit above positive on this. He's not like he's like, okay, the names that he's around on Luz's list are like Nertz, Wonderful, NPL, Zelix. He's a little bit above Exertion, for example. He's a little bit above JBA, but he's beneath all these guys that we think are like really mechanically sick. Like he's not up there. Like Luz's top players on that list are Donk, Insani, Monacy, Flamesy. I'm not saying them in order, but I'm just saying like these are guys that are just the giga cracked. Like they just hit hell like way more shots than you'd expect. Like Jamyoung is like Jamyoung's like twice as good on dual swing, for example, than Spinx is. But Spinx is positionally a much better player. And I think that's kind of the point I'm trying to make here is that like Spinx, if you see him cornered on a bomb site, sometimes he'll come up with a multi-frag, but oftentimes he just gets killed. He just dies. But I think that he plays to his strengths in a way that not many other players do, where you see him always kind of flirting with the idea. Should I make a push? Should I try to catch a timing here? Should I go for the flank? Those are the kind of like Spinx's legit like read of the game is so strong that regardless of that one Achilles heel, that if I get him in a 50-50 duel versus Jamyoung's going to win that fight more often than not. He still puts himself in more situations where he's a better player than Jamyoung. He's a better player than Insani. You know, that's what's really impressive. And I think it kind of still shows to this day, you don't have to just have aim labs or whatever Kovacs like aim cracked ass shit where you're just using a final mouse and flicking around with like 1,000 DPI or whatever the fuck. You know, like he doesn't care about that. I don't think he's just reading the game at an extremely high level, and that deserves props in its own way.
Also ties in with what I was saying about his playing style. It makes sense then as to why he wants to set his shots up and know where the person is and peek on that particular pixel, etc. If people don't know, a classic concept from Quake, where people think everyone's mechanically super strong because they all shoot railguns, is you make the shot easier for yourself by like using sound cues and strafing out with the right, and you don't put the crosshair too close to the wall. If you really, very few people are like simple Monacy where they just walk out and do a 98-degree flick and hit the guy. Like that's why those guys are from the heavens, isn't it? So, okay. There's actually going to be a fan-related topic now on Snake and Banter, because that's a new feature of LFN Premium. If you go to last3nation.com, you can subscribe to our premium service. It's $9 a month, but you can also just get the whole year for $90, about $7.50 a month. There is a 7-day money-back guarantee. One of the features you will get is each week someone can submit, we choose from them, via the Discord for the subscribers, a topic for this show. We'll read out your name and ask the topic and incorporate it into the show. Obviously, it doesn't have to be good, bad, or ugly. We're just going to do this as the fan topic. If there isn't any submitted, by the way, then we won't do it that week. So go to the Discord if you're a subscriber, submit it, make sure in the topics that you put Snake and Banter, and then actually at the end of the show, for people behind the paywall who are subscribers, there will be an exclusive Q&A and Tech Girl will answer some questions there. But again, they did this time, but remember to ask the questions on the Discord if you want to have questions in the future, so we can have the Q&A segments. Also, you get all the other shows as well, ad-free on whatever platforms you're on when you subscribe to it, and there's a bunch of other things coming, but you'll find out about that in the future. So the question for this one is by Nixon, and they say, with the current state of CS, would you ever consider making a single nation roster ever again? So one of those ones where everyone's just from one country. What do you think, Tech Girl? With where CS is now, would you do it? Would you make, if so, but you can maybe pick the country.
No.
Would you make one?
No. Just no.
Okay.
No.
Now, look, I don't want to be rude, but she is from South Africa, and the only way JT gets to have a professional career is if he doesn't play with South African players.
Exactly.
So I don't know if that's a bias that you were thinking of there. You know,
who even is there other than Sonic now?
Sonic and JT, and then the worst is for the C nations, what? Like I'm gonna now the whole country will hate me. But the CS fans were all like, Sonic and JT must come play for us, and I'm like, no, they must not. We need them to qualify for the major. I do not want them wasting their time. I was like, do not encourage this behavior. I think they were actually listed as the subs on the qualifiers, but I was like, ain't no way these guys are playing. But no, I think that I don't think single nation rosters will work anymore. I think it's changed, and you need to go international if you want to succeed.
The only country that has a chance of still competing for trophies is Russia. That's the only. There's only that. That's the only one. But even Spirit didn't assemble a full Russian team. They don't think that on paper that's the strongest roster that you could put forward. That's why they have a Ukrainian player and a Belarusian player. So Belarusian, I guess is a better way to say it. But I think the second would probably have to be. Well, we saw how good Aurora was. I mean, to be fair, like they did get top 4 at the major. So maybe and they did beat a Russian team actually in the quarterfinals. But that's it, really. I mean, I guess if I really want to stretch it, no. Okay, the answer to the question is just no, right? Generally, I mean, other than Russian, why would I? I mean, Danish people speak English well enough. Yeah. Apparently, Brazilian people think that speaking English is easier than speaking Portuguese when you play Counter-Strike, so they're down for that now. And then that's it. Like, I don't really have any other countries that come to mind.
I mean, the funny thing is, obviously, I actually think the Russian angle is also largely just because of the geopolitical situation and all the sanctions and how hard the visas are. Like, if no one knows, there's a reason why before that, no one ever talked about Russia and Ukraine as separate countries in Counter-Strike. We just said CIS region, and it could be Kazakhstan player, Belarusia, Ukraine, fucking Russia itself. You could have all the, because everyone spoke Russian, it was more about the language than it was about the specific country. So I actually think the only reason the Russians even do it right now is just because it's harder for them to get on the Western teams. Also, I actually think you nailed it there. The only country I think should even attempt it again is just Denmark. Like, it's the only one where, like, maybe they would get something because they like historically tactical player. Maybe that could add to it, because as Janko once told me years ago about FaZe, I've always thought it's a great line. The right call 1 second late becomes the wrong call. That could be a logic as to why if you had a really tactical Danish team. The problem now is, as I pointed out, you still have to gamble to make that roster. Like, you probably need Blame F back, you know what I mean, in Astralis. You might have to gamble on Stown or JBOEN as the AWP. There's not an obvious 5 players. So actually right now, the problem right now is you just get access to so much more talent if everyone speaks English. And as a knock-on effect, because everyone speaks English already to be in international teams, everyone's English has gotten really good. Whereas back in the day, you did worry if you got an Eastern European player. Will he be okay? He's probably played in his 2 semi-pro teams now like that and already used comms. And actually, people say, famously, even in like countries that are really good at English, they say you learn English by watching TV. I'm pretty sure if ever since you were 13, you've just played on FACEIT and matchmaking and in semi-pro teams that everyone spoke English. Surely by the time you become pro, you've had like 5 years of doing that. You probably have like half-decent English for the game. So I actually think, sadly, that is one of those cool things, like talking shit at halftime on the mic in CS matchmaking, that we'll all fondly remember, and people will bring it up every now and then, and people who are really mental like lauNX will dub it as racism they enjoy, but that's just something that the rest of us won't be a part of and will be a thing of the past, sadly. So okay, good question lauNX, I'll do say, because people always hint that they should go back to that, but I actually think the Aurora example is the best one. Aurora only got famous because they were all Turkish, because that allowed them to have Zantares and Majer and Wox. The problem is, I'm pretty sure all of us are hyped that they're no longer Turkish and that they've broken it up and now they can just have any players and they might actually one day win a major with international roster. That's also that kind of shows which way our one's going. Like, we're going away from the rosters that were set like that. Okay, the last section of the show is obviously the ugly section. So Tech Girl, what is ugly right now?
Oh, this is, okay, I'm going to be honest. I did a Snake and Banter decision then. I was kind of like, I really want to talk about this. I don't really know where it fits. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's bad. So we'll just throw it into the ugly. So there we go. I want to talk about the Esports World Cup Open Qualifier because I love it. Like, obviously, I think everyone has that nostalgia when you saw that setup and all the PCs and you were just like, damn, this actually looks cool. I'm more excited watching that. I know this. I know that I'm more excited watching this than I'm going to be watching the actual Esports World Cup, to be fair. Like, I'm hyped about it. It's fun for me. It's noisy. I think it looks chaotic. I'm like, damn, it's like lots of upsets, whatever. But then the bad thing for me, and that's why I kind of feel like it fits in the ugly section, is I'm like, this is just not sustainable. It's never going to happen anywhere else. No one else can afford to do this setup. And let's be honest, next year when the Esports World Cup returns to Riyadh, those teams ain't flying there on their own dime to hang out there for a single elim. And then I'm sad because I'm like, we're getting hyped for something that we probably won't see again. Not in this format.
No.
But I don't think there's another TO that can afford to set up PCs like that and have everyone pitch up and be filming them. Maybe we'll have like some smaller lands where you bring your own stuff, but not at this level. So that's why it's ugly, because it's cool and then they're going to take it away from us.
I think this is further testament that we need the RMRs back in some capacity. For something like this, I actually find it really interesting. I think I think it's kind of hilarious. This is sort of the tip. It actually lets you see what a pros versus Joes sort of competition would look like, where you have Gizmy dropping 52 kills and like a 2.7 rating against a group of, like, I think they are 3,000 elo FACEIT level 10s stack from Ukraine, which is just crazy. I think that's actually just crazy that, like, you think that, because you would probably think that once you get to that sort of 3,000, 4,000 elo level, you would probably see skill taper off. But it keeps going. It actually, and it is, like, I think a lot of people are a little bit, there is a little bit of Dunning-Kruger or delusion from fans who are high level that they think, oh yeah, because I'm 4,000 elo, I can probably do what these guys do.
No, Gizmy would stomp you, exactly, like, and he's considered a low fragger. Exactly true. That's true.
Yeah, that's what's pretty amazing. Like the humbling that is happening right now amongst those kinds of matchups is pretty hilarious, actually. So I really enjoy that aspect, the open LAN part of it. I don't think I like the fact that right after their series for Liquid, Alicia is immediately saying, guys, it's too loud in here, that they're complaining because of the set, the whatever, the ambient noise or whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Listen, when the princess feels that pee underneath the bottom pillow, it is her prerogative and birthright to complain about it. That's Alicia's status in this community, sir.
Elysian the P. Yeah, no, but I like certain aspects of it. So it's kind of a fun ugly point.
No, by the way, the reason I do think it is an ugly point as well is I'll give you one really bizarre element, right? Because this qualifier takes place before the main event, which is next week. What's bizarre is the main event opens with the first matches BO1, but these qualifiers are all BO3s, which is like, that's already ugly. What do you mean there's a sturdier format to get me into the main event than the first match I play? That's already like, but I get it's because the actual main event has to be probably like 5 days or something, and they've got, now it's a big, massive 16 team playoff or whatever. So they've just got too many matches to do was the problem with that. So I get how that works. With that said, as you say, the good parts are obvious, which is, yes, this is actually a throwback to really old school esports. And people don't know, tournaments like ESWC, famously the CPLs in the early days used to be really crazy. They used to have 128 teams and just play an opening match. And you could actually get a real top team, go all the way to America and just get knocked out in the first match. It happened very, very rarely, but obviously it was pure fucking banter if it ever did happen, by the way. Like, that's the ultimate, like, it can go the other way too, Maui. Every now and then you think, well, I'm a tier 1 team, we can only, and then you could just lose to some utter fucking randoms and be like, holy fuck, I forgot, because remember, sometimes you'll even play someone where because they're not a top team, they won't even play the game properly. They'll just do stupid shit that normally wouldn't work. And the example would be, whereas on a round, you think, oh, well, there wouldn't be a guy there because that doesn't make sense. Yeah, well, they don't know that. They're just playing fucking 3,000 level, like you say, like they don't. Also, I agree with that one as well. That's my favorite one. I've told people this example before because you'll know it. But Brian Scalabrine was a guy in the NBA who was on the Boston Celtics, a very good old, but he was a bench warmer. He was the guy you bring in at the end of the game to play the garbage time when you've won or lost the game, and you just basically just get like a bunch of shitty stats because he's just playing against the other bench warmers to close out a game that's over. Like, what, your team's up 20 or is down 20, and it doesn't matter because the game's already up, right? That player, well, every fan at home in the bar goes, well, I actually played, I played high school basketball and I'd be better than him. And so he did a series, Tech Girl, on YouTube where he would challenge loudmouth fans like that on the internet to come and play him. He's also now retired, by the way, in real life, one-on-one. And in one-on-one, he would fucking cook them. As in, he would literally win in like a one-on-one game, like 8-1, and so like first in 8 or 9 or something. He would just destroy them. Because as you saw very quickly when they played him, it's like, oh wait, he looks shit because he's playing the best athletes in the world. Versus you on the couch, he actually looks like he's LeBron, bro. Like, that's how much better he was. Like, he would do everything. He would be at shooting. He'd back them down. He'd defend their shot. He'd fucking do like actual post moves. Like, he'd do like a pivot fucking Kobe fadeaway. And the joke was, he actually had a saying that was like that. He said, I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me. And no one believed it until he did this YouTube series. But I swear, every YouTube one I've ever seen, he doesn't even just beat them, bro. He absolutely destroys these fans. And some of them look like, so I can get why some of the delusions. Some of them look like they're in good shape, They probably play basketball every day at the park or something. But again, like the 3,000 level player, you just have never played anyone good. So in your level, you think, I'm pretty fucking... You don't know that, like, Gizme and Mezzi, and they would be God compared to you. They'd be like Donk joining the server. That's why Gizme, if you don't know, I think it was like 52-9 over the best of 3, like... He's far and away the least skilled player on 100 Thieves, but you made him look like King Kong, just destroying people, so I thought that was pure banter. Also, yeah, as you pointed out, since there's no RMR, there really isn't a thing nowadays where some team who's like, I don't know, 15th could play a team that's like 87th in the world. That's just a random online qualifier game. The idea it's at LAN, and also it's got this setup where you're all in close quarters, and you're talking to... I love that one, the idea that Elise has just been in the pro player bubble so long. He's like, admin, I can hear him talking. I'm trying to focus right now. Admin, get him out of here. Get him out. Why is there not like a velvet cord keeping the plebeians away from me in my petition? I'm a professional player for Liquid. And then they're just like, sorry, Alicia, it's kind of an egalitarian tournament where you just got to get in there and do what you can. It's like, oh, this fucking sucks. I'm going to be reporting to Liquid about this. Joker Steve just speed dials him instantly. Like, get rid of... Oh, no, wait, that's another month from now. Get these kids out of here. Anyway, whatever. I agree. It's a good topic, though. It is. Because actually, listen, there's plenty that's positive about it. I think there's also downsides of it, too. I'm with you on that. Also, you are right as well. Everyone's going to get hyped as fuck because of this, and they don't realise it can only happen because it's in France. Because it's in France, exactly. You can get cheap...
Doesn't happen again.
Think of budget airlines. Also, by the way... If you get eliminated, you have a couple of days on holiday, you go home. Some of them will leave. Some of the Eastern European teams, I'll tell you, they'll come on train. They'll just got on a train that's like a cheap one that went like 15 hours or something. Nobody's doing that to go to Saudi Arabia, even if they held this. Like, there's no universe where you fly it all the way there. And I'm pretty sure you couldn't even afford it if you just won these random... Like that team you're saying that 100 Thieves beat, there's no way they're ever going to fucking Saudi Arabia, mate. Like, it ain't happening. So you're right, enjoy it. That's why it's a good ugly. Just enjoy it. That's here this one time. It'll never happen again.
Another one that flew under the radar for just pros humbling Joes was also Crims over the other team that he opened against. That was like a 3,500 elo stack, and people are gonna think, okay, it's Crims, he's washed, it's the end of his career, hang it up and everything like that. It puts up a 2.12 rating, 117 ADR, and the guys literally, I looked up their profiles, they have like 3,500 FACEIT elo. Like they would, 95%, 99% of podcast listeners are beneath those guys. And so Crims is already destroying like some of the upper echelon people in FACEIT EU. It's just there's absolutely...
Put it this way, I will even attest to this, because like about a month ago I started playing on stream again for the lols late at night. It's also just a way to do like my gambling shit, and then I just play the game and people stick around to watch me play the game and scream at people and try ridiculous stuff. Every now and then I just get people who are in my friend circle to play, like Vince the caster. If you don't know, Vince carries almost every game we played, but I'll give you the more extreme one. I was friends from like 20 years ago with the guy who's the owner of Ents, Natu. And if you don't know, he used to be a top pro player 15 to 20 years ago. He is now 41 years old with like 3 or 4 kids, and he doesn't in any way try to practice CS. And if he ever joins the game, he hard carries the shit out of every single round we play and can win almost every clutch against anyone that is drawn in the matchmaking Premier game. Literally anyone. Like the people that stay up all night, the people that look, by the way, if cheaters are in the game, people that just look like the wall hacker, he's still winning the duels against them. And he would even tell you he is beyond washed washed and Boomer's fucked. And even he's like dominating them. So it makes me, anyone who's an active pro, it's like that fucking Muhammad Ali thing. You should, like, if you even think you could beat them, you should fucking wake up from your dream and apologize. Like, not in a million years, bro. Not in a million years. Okay. That will now bring us on to Maui's ugly point. And again, you could make a bingo card after the results of a tournament and know where we're all going on this one. So Maui, what's ugly right now? What are you not fucking with?
It's ugly. It would have been just bad, but it feels almost hurtful given his situation.
Oh, he's upgrading it. Okay.
So I had to just put it in ugly instead, which usually can soften the blow lightly for something that is just bad. Because it feels bad to pick on a guy who just got out of the hospital for life-threatening reasons. Sure. But I just think that I've seen enough. I've seen enough. I don't rate hally whatsoever over Sotvic. He could be a coach. He could be a coach for another team. He could be an esports director of operations or anything like that. Okay. But the difference between Sotvic behind Spirit and hally behind Spirit is now so apparent. We have done the A/B testing. It wasn't just a little run of. It wasn't just like one tournament or anything like that. It wasn't just, we saw 2 tournaments with Sotvic. Now I'm looking at the tournament before they had him with Rotterdam, and I'm now looking at the tournament with Holly's back at Bounty, and Spirit are just night and day a different team. It's actually too apparent via just the eye test, but also the stats test. So I actually looked at, this doesn't take too much effort, but I got the averages of the flash assists per map, per round, really, for both PGL Astana and Rio, which is where Sotvic was at. And then I looked at it for Bounty and Rotterdam. Their flash assists with Sotvic behind them are 39% better. There are 39% more flash assists per round with Sotvic. And just watch Spirit at Astana highlights. So you just literally, if you want to just get if you watch any of their games at Astana and you look at the highlights, the amount of flash assists is ridiculous. It is so absurd how many free kills they get. By the way, versus some really good teams, okay? I don't even think you could really draw into question the level of competition, because if anything, they should have probably gotten more flash assists in a tournament like the Bounty, where the competition was weaker, and by virtue of that, you're getting easier kills. But no, at Astana, Spirit, they played against Maus, they played against Falcons, they played against G2. These are top teams that they're defeating, and they are still just putting them to shame. They beat Furia 2 at that tournament. They played so many elite teams there, and they still were getting these crazy flash assist numbers, the best flash assist numbers I've ever seen for Spirit. And they've now also said enough. They've also kind of said enough regarding what Sotvic versus hally brought. It was a little bit opaque before, but now they've already said, no, Sotvic focuses on the micro. He makes sure that things are in check in the micro in the game. Hally comes up with these macro game plans. And the reason that this is even further ugly is that's even a worse reason to keep hally right now, because the literal game plan that they use on Dust 2, like the whole narrative of Maus and the new lineup with PR and Spinx, or even when it was Spinx and Zelix on the B-bomb side of Dust 2, is that their B site sucks. Their B site defense was really, really bad. And that's what we kept saying. We looked at the ratings on their players. We looked like the holds were bad in general. There were various reasons for that. Oftentimes it is because Spinx just leaves the bomb site and he leaves the solo defender by himself way too frequently. But then in the game plan for Spirit, they didn't even go B on a Dust 2 round, a gun round, till round 10. And then they went B for the last 3 rounds of the half, 10, 11, 12. They won all 3 of those, but they already lost the half because they didn't go B. They didn't go B earlier. It only came. And then James Banks brings it up in the post-game interview, and Magix almost doesn't want to admit this fact that the game plan was to not go B, which is like insane if you've been watching this team suck at Maus at B. And the thing is that it felt like Dust 2 was a gimme. You look at that veto going into that series, and it is very obvious that Spirit are supposed to pick Dust 2. They should be winning Dust 2. And then you move on, and Maus hope to even up the series. Yep. That changes the BO5 tremendously, because obviously they won Ancient. It would have been 2-2 going to Cash. You don't know what's going to happen there. So it would have been a completely different story. And even if you just live by the results that happened otherwise, but the actual game planning was bad. And who comes up with the game plans in the macro sense? It's hally. So I'm now very sold on him being the coach of. I'm very sold as Sotvic being the head coach of Spirit. Okay. I would rather see him stand behind them. Like I'm I really think that Holly's the plaudits that Hally got is so concerning. It's so odd because everybody's like calling for these strats and like the chopper's head. What are these calls? Holly was the one like directing so much of this, and he got away with it because legitimately, when he suits up, when he wears a Spirit coach's jacket and he has that beard, he looks like a coach. He looks like he looks like he should be coaching some like Premier League team or something. Agreed. But instead he's coming up with strats right there with Chopper, and everybody was getting mad at Chopper for what he was calling, but this has always been the Hally system, and I've seen enough at Rio, I saw enough at Astana. That was a different spirit, and I want more of that, not with Hally.
You've pretty much, I mean, I think you've said everything that can be said, but I just wanted to reiterate it because I also felt at Astana that team was also in their interviews letting it slip about where they were feeling. If you listen to the way they were speaking, I mean, they were dropping all those hints. You could tell that they were happier without having Hally standing behind them. They were happier with how things were going. They were happier with the way they were allowed to play. And I just think that if you are a coach and you have Donk in your lineup, if you're not lifting trophies, you get kicked. Like that's, I know it sounds horrific, but you shouldn't, there should be no excuses. You should be in grand finals all the time. And this lineup has regularly failed. And so at some point, you have to take responsibility for it. But I'm kind of with you on all of it, Maui. And it feels horrible, though, because the guy has been sick. But here we are just saying, like, tough luck. You should also get fired now.
I mean, I'll also even throw it out there, even though this sounds sacrilegious. Even two of the better Donk events, like were when the sort of fit guy was there. Like actually, Donk also looked kind of shit at this Blast now, didn't he? And at the beginning of the year, he was a bit scuffed too at the other bounty. So like that's it. Even there's like a mild correlation there, isn't there? So no, the problem I have with this is I'm obviously a Hally fan in general because I do think the team at the beginning probably needed him to like set the structure. Like again, Chomper wasn't even a real IGL. People don't know back in the day. Like he was a nobody. Like so, I do think he built a lot of the structure and probably brought people up like Magix and Zontics in the system and how they play and all the rest of that jazz and integrated Shiro into the lineup and built a team around her. These are all good things. A lot of that shit is from 2 years ago, though. It's like, I will say one thing that I'm alarmed by still is I still think the bellwether in Spirit is the player Tanair that they added as they gamble to be the star. And if people don't know, when they literally had the period when Sotfit came in, Tanair started banging and having the results we all thought he could have, and he looked really good. And then at this last tournament, he also looked actually shit, and in the final was really irrelevant when Hally is back. And if you didn't know, when I did my interview with Magix, it was basically implied that like part of this is like this is the intentional, that they've swapped up some of the roles and they're doing some different things with it. And listen, whether or not the players want it or not is a separate conversation, isn't it? Like sometimes players have a different perspective on what they think they're good at and what they want to do. But I know what Maui means. Like from the outside, there was a lot of things that were working with the Sotfit guy that at a minimum, you just keep it like that. If not, here's the other problem I have is it was actually implied by the Spirit CEO. This is why I wonder if Hally's health thing has actually further complicated this. It was implied around the time of the major that actually they'd heard us and they all knew we were all saying the Sotfit guy looked really good because of how good the team was and they were elite. And that actually he was going to become the coach and stand behind them, and that Hally would be like the head coach and then he'd be sort of like the micro coach, as it were. That sounded great because I thought to myself, wait a minute, that's great. That's genius. You don't emasculate Hally and chop his balls off and say it's not your project anymore because it was your team. But also you take whatever the new guy's adding and you say, why not both? The fucking classic meme. And then you get the upside, you get the most of both worlds. At the moment, it looks like for whatever reason, it's just Hally God Emperor again, and then Sotfik's off watching on fucking Twitch like the rest of us. And I'm with you, Maui. It is true. It's because when he has like that really well like crafted fucking little beard, like goatee type shit. He's got the fucking, he has he's got the thick frame glass. I know what you mean. You could imagine this guy like opening up a fucking a briefcase on one of those big cells from the 80s. Like sell. Get him out. Get him in the accounts now. Like, okay, Susan, make my 10:30 and we're going to be running late. Yeah, I've got to meet someone. Bring the car around front. Like, but the problem with all that is that doesn't fucking coach CS games, does it? Like, I don't care in CS if you're some fat nerd. Just tell me, get fucking Donk fragging, get Tanair to be a star player, and also, by the way, even though I like him, Get Magic to fuck off all those rotator rolls. What are you doing right now? Anyway, that's by the by. 'Cause I'm with you. I actually do think everyone was right going into that event. We all framed it as Spirit has to win this one. Yeah, what happens when they didn't then? And by the way, they convincingly lost that final. There have to be serious questions asked. Like, I don't look at that and go, wow, FaCe and Mouse are so good. I look at that and go, what the fuck are you doing in Team Spirit? That was the biggest layup tournament ever that would have actually set up this whole season for you. And if you did, here's the other reason why also, Maui. It was the easiest field. So hally could even have won that one and done some bullshit narrative, like so much for that soft fic. It wouldn't even count, by the way. It'd be like a semi-fraudulent narrative, but you can't even do that because you lost. You lost, so it's just fucking bad. I'm with you. It's just fucking bad, mate.
Rating wise for Tanier at the two events, that if you actually, this is criminal. When you look at Tanier's overall numbers for when he's been with Spirit, his best is not the Bounty Season 1 finals, but or the online portion, but his best 3 LAN events are all without hally. That's Cologne Stage 2, that's IEM Rio, and that's PGL Astana.
Yes.
So his 3 literal best LANs are with them, and with hally this year, he's got a 0.99 rating. That's ridiculous.
That's criminal.
It's 1.13 Astana, 1.14 Rio, 1.45 at Cologne Stage 2, and with hally 0.99. That is like, this guy, he's breathing down his neck. Okay, like he's filling that jersey with him. It's crazy.
Yes, which is a bummer because that's also why I'm a fan of Spirit. I want them to actually still be good where Donk's there, not from have to leave and people say he's elo held. Anyway, this is now a perfect segue because we have one more poly market, and how could this one get any more spicy? Because look at the poly market. Look, it was only open today, so don't worry about the numbers. For right now, we're more just going to say who's going to win this tournament. The next blast is basically towards the end of this month, if people don't know, in Portugal, Porto, Portugal. And obviously now it is way more spicy, isn't it? Because Spirit themselves just failed to win a pretty weak blast field. Falcons, we haven't seen them yet since the major, so no one even knows what form they're going to be in. Vitality, this is one of the events where GL's playing, and it is speculated that it will be actually, this is the event where he will replace Mezzi. So in theory, you would still have Apex, but you'd have it JL instead of Mezzi. Navi, who the fuck knows about. Fury, we haven't seen. Mouse just won an event, and it's all the way down here, but it was just a little bout. Right? I think this has got to be right wide up. Tech Girl, who's going to win this event? Who do you think?
Vitality.
Still Vitality. You're believing in the dream.
I'm going with Vitality.
Okay.
Well, JL.
She's a JL believer.
Just for a giggle.
Oh, okay.
I'm
surprised you didn't say Furia.
To clarify, I believe in Apex, not JL.
Okay.
Right. I'm taking Falcons. I'm doubling down on the 3-way prediction we made on Hot Take Point made a while back that this season I think Falcons is going to win the most big tournaments. Okay, I feel like right now it's the 3-way tie right now because none of them won it between Thorin picking Vitality, me picking Falcons, and Kassad beating having Spirit. But no, I don't think Spirit's coming. I don't think Spirit's gonna walk away from that bounty any better. I think Falcons absolutely, they're gonna be running off of whatever powers them through EWC, which to them is probably in some ways even bigger than their major, given the organization that they're part of. So I think they're gonna be in incredible form for this. So I'm taking Falcons.
Yes. No, I've got to say, I'm actually going to take Falcons because the problem is, it's not even a GL angle. Like, it's technically, GL is a more skilled player than Mezzi. The problem is, Mezzi does all the dog's body work in their team, which is definitely not GL's game. So I actually also think he's just going to struggle in that regard. Like, I don't think people realize how much easier almost everyone else's life gets because Mezzi is in the server with you. So I'll take Falcons too, because I actually think, like Maui said, if you look at the schedule, I don't count Blast Bounty online at all. I think literally, mate, they'd barely fucking sobered up from the last cocktail from the fucking 4-week party of like Nico finally won the major, Falcons got over the hump, all the pressure's being relieved, Carrigan gets to keep his job and he's the GOAT. I don't think anyone gave a fuck about that tournament. And also, this is after EWC, which as Maui said, that's the real tournament that your org is telling you, aside from the 2 majors, is the most important event of the year. We must win the overall org. So you're going to be going so hard for EWC, even if you don't win it. This event comes right afterwards. This is the one you just walk then. You're already in good form. And unlike all the other teams, Spirit's in a fucking mess. Vitality's got a player that's not a normal player. Navi didn't make a roster move. And Furia, no one even knows where their heads are. I think Falcons actually, it makes sense that they come and they just play some awesome CS and they win the tournament. I'm with you. I will take that one too. So that is leading to the last point of the show, which is my point. And it actually ties into that aforementioned poly market, which is this. Think about it. It has to be ugly. Where the fuck is that stacked second season I was promised? What the... That was about 8 million people's points on every show. Oh my God, Thorin, get ready for the second season. You won't believe it. Vitality's, they're going to be so hungry after losing that major. Spirit, oh, they look so much better. Today's a star player now. Donk's going for number one. Well, Modesty still thinks he can be number one. And Falcons won the major finally. Furia, you know, it's the last dance for Fallen. He has to win on the way out. Aurora made a fucking 6 set of player moves, haven't they? Navi's probably going to make a move too, Thorin. They have to make a move now, Thorin. They have to do a move now. It's all just gone to shit, hasn't it? Fucking bum-ass Mouse is winning events. The EWC, who even fucking knows? People are just having children instead of winning video game tournaments. Hally's over there going like, do eeny, meeny, miny. You're the rotator this time. No one even knows, bro. No, all of that. It's only been one event and already it's evaporated, mate. I was so hyped. I thought this second season would be a bloodbath. Every semi-finals would be Falcons versus Vitality versus Spirit versus fucking, and then in the background you got like fucking Furious trying to get in there, Aurora. Like at the moment, I need EWC has to bang so hard because right now I'm so scared that we're going to be halfway through this season, then just be like, nah, it's kind of a bit of a humdrum. Fucking everyone's shit. Okay. What do you think, Tech Girl? Has my dream gone?
I worry that this is more, it's less to do with like the teams and more just to do with like the second half of the year. Because in the first year, like for me, I'm like the first half of the year is always like, you know what I mean? You've got like Cologne, and obviously it was a major, but like you've got Krakow, you've got like PGL Cluj, you've got like all these big lands that are like super hype and everyone's really excited. Then we're going to Kazakhstan and like it's a big thing. And then it kind of in the second half, let's be honest, it does. There isn't, I don't think that there is a tournament in the second half of the year that really has the prestige that like any of those do.
No,
so it kind of feels like it. I mean, I know EWC is trying, but I'm sorry, it's not there yet. Like no one feels that way about it. So you kind of, I think it loses the magic. So we're all super hyped off the back of these like crazy big lands and then the major. And now we know it's going to be super stacked. The major was, I mean, Cologne was insane. Like with some of those games we saw in the arena. So you're like up here when the season ends. And now when this season starts, I think what you're feeling is just that sort of like the balloon deflating because there isn't really a big name tournament to get that pressure going. Even though there are big tournaments, it's just, I feel like the second half of the year in Counter-Strike seriously lacks some sort of prestige. That to me feels like it's missing. It's just this like mad sprint to get to the major at the end of the year.
Sort of agree. Also, I just think that the opening tournaments are, I think the difference is that usually you had Bounty or whatever the opening Blast event is into Katowice, same kind of with Cologne, where you would kind of have this immediate ramp up, like very quick ramp up. Also, I think that this is due in part to the fact that a lot of the best roster moves in my eyes in the offseason were more so the teams that were around the 30th in the world mark. So it was never really a blockbuster move being made by a team that's already a contender. Like I thought the best moves of the offseason were VC Game and 100 Thieves. Yeah. And now it seems like also in a way Liquid.
Or Heroic or something. Yeah, it's just all the smaller teams,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe Paravision is competitive again, but like, do we really believe that? True. You know, are they really going to be a contender? Maybe not. I'm glad they made. I'm glad they got Flit, but I think he's better than who they had before. But it's just, I know. If we saw a more seismic shakeup with Spirit, Vitality, Falcons, even Furia, even if Furia pulled the trigger on some really unique move or something, and then we could be, our interest could be piqued there. But it just feels like we're sort of in a holding period for there to be some shakeup for the top 4 teams. I guess the most interesting storyline that's emerging for me is how competitive are MAUs? Are they actually going to be fighting regularly with the top 4 teams that are already established? Because I would say right now in the pecking order, I'd have to put them above Furia. So I probably would say, but are they really? And the sheer fact that they beat Spirit in a BO5, that's not an accident. So now does that elite, like upper echelon, does that get kind of mixed up because MAUs is now fighting for a spot now in the semifinals every time, or the grand finals even, because that makes things more interesting for me. But at the same time, it's not. And I also think this, actually, I want to even give a little bit more credit to MAUs. I think that they actually are an extremely interesting dark horse team now going into tournament because they have a fragging IGL, which maybe doesn't call as well as Kerrigan does, but he sure as hell shoots way effing harder. Definitely. And that to me gives you a win condition in a way that not every other upper echelon team has. Obviously Falcons, usually Apex isn't punching up there. Fallen definitely isn't. Spirit Magix is, he's a role player at best on a good day, really. Well, on a good day that isn't against FaCEIT in a grand finals, he's a role player. So that's where I think Maus actually can upset the balance a bit. But yeah, generally speaking, I kind of agree that there's not the events that I'm looking forward to they're the events that I'm working, Thorin. They're just the events that I'm working.
As always. Okay, well, that is where this show will end, unless you subscribe to Last Edition Premium, in which case you would immediately then get to enjoy an exclusive Q&A, which we will answer. But otherwise, goodbye, or see you in the Q&A. Right, well, basically, this is the Q&A. So if you listen to that, now here we are. You are in the elite circle. You are behind that velvet rope that Elige wanted before, but you, a plebeian, can go and join our circle. And Maui won't be like, get them out of here. I'm the elite Elige talent. I can't have a member of the public near me. It's not a signing session. Actually, he's cool with you being here.
We should call it the last free Mason Illuminati. It's like the screw Illuminati.
Okay, I see how you went with that one. Right, basically, obviously, these are all taken from the Discord for the subscribers. If you want to ask one in the future, go ahead and you're already subscribed because you listen to this, but make sure you ask questions, because even though you might like listening to them, if no one submits them, then we won't get them. And when you submit, make sure you say the name of the show. Some people just put a question in there, and I'm sorry, I am very cynical. So some of those, if there's lots of Snake and Banter ones, I'll just take and put on my other shows so they can also make money off of the exclusive Q&A, whether you asked it for that show or not. That's who I am. So if you want to actually ensure it's on the show that you wanted it for, put the fucking name of the show, and then I will honor that. That is the olive branch I will offer to you, person paying me to try and talk to me. Anyway, let's get into it.